The 4 labor codes are ready for implementation. Only date of notification is expected from the central government. The code on wages, the code on hire, the code on social security, the code on occupational health and working conditions. All the 4 codes are unified under the 4 codes. 4 legislations are merged in Code of Wages. 3 legislations have been merged in IR Code. 9 legislations have been merged in Security, Social Security, and 13 legislations are merged in Occupational Health and Safety. You see here, the total number of existing definitions is 377, whereas under the code it is reduced to 204 only. The number of provisions existing is 1221, but under the code it is 465. Now let's examine the overall positive and advantages for the industry. This aims at uniform application of health, safety, occupational health, welfare and working conditions to all establishments, be it commercial, manufacturing, plantations, mines, etc. Submission of returns are centralized and digitalized. Aims at social security schemes to extend to unorganized sector. This is a very good thing. Recognition of trade union has been legalized after 94 years of Trade Union Act came into force. Most of the existing provisions related to social security scheme like Provident Fund, ESI, payment of gratuity, payment of bonus, compensation to employment injuries, etc. are retained in the codes. This avoids conflict between the industry, labor, and the government. Applicability of standing orders have been enhanced to 300 workmen as against 100. The concept of public utility services is eliminated, and notice of 14 days is mandated for strikes and lockouts, and any sudden lightning strikes, etc., are illegal hereafter. An industry can lay off, retrenchment, or close in case of employment strength of workers is less than 300 without seeking the permission from the government, the central or state governments. Fixed term employment has been introduced, which is aimed at employment of persons due to sudden demand in the service industry. Now let us quickly see what are the disadvantages. Now, how far the labor codes addresses the main objectives and intention of central government of ease of doing business. Number 1 is the wage administration and employee cost. Here under the code, the definition of wages have been totally remodified. The consequences of it, the financial liability of the employer goes up in terms of higher PF, gratuity, and other related payments. And to neutralize this additional financial burden, it calls for change management, because to neutralize the additional expense, there is no relief provided under the code and will have to prevail upon trade unions and workmen, which are again a matter of challenge, and this becomes a major issue. Another thing is the fixation of national floor level wages under the chapter of minimum wages. The fixation has been evolved in the light of evidence-based fixation here. Here, 2,700 calories per head per day, 66 meters of cloth per annum for the family, 10% HRA for both together, then fuel, ST and business expenses 20% of this total. Children education is kept at 25% of this total. The above has been endorsed by even the Supreme Court of India. In fact, this need-based minimum wages, as per the wage theories, propagate need-based wages here. It depends on the productivity of labor. Here, the binding of the people, workers, on the enhancement of productivity is totally absent in this code. This is a major challenge for the industry. As far as the bilateral machines are concerned, of course, the works committee is there is no problem. Second, the main thing is the grievance redressal machinery. This really is a major challenging issue, because under this, if you closely observe the provisions related to grievance redressal machinery, finally it leads to sharp rise in the industrial dispute because any workman who is disgruntled with the decision of the industrial committee is not in favor, he can straight away approach the conciliation of the right there's a dispute. Here, this is a major challenge. Managerial effectiveness is the essence of any preventive and resolution step. This is one important issue where it becomes an additional responsibility on the part of the management. Next is the change in service conditions. As you know, the industries are urging for relaxation of Section 9A so that the modernization, productivity increases, redeployment, flexibility engaging becomes absolutely free, absolutely open to the industry. Of course, subject to other service conditions being remain same, like for instance, wage conditions, other related matters. But actually, in this code, this is totally silent, and the same thing have been maintained. Hence, the industries are bound to take the consent or come to an understanding with the trade union and the workers to bring out any change in the service conditions, particularly related to all these matters like rationalization, redeployment, remodifications, etc., all those things. He is at the mercy of this the trade union and the worker, and this is another major issue. It is not a it is a challenging position. Here also, the situation calls for challenging tasks to neutralize the additional financial burden, as discussed earlier, and continues to be so. Any strategic plan adopted towards technical development, innovations, innovative practices, including expansion, generation of employment, etc. The most important thing is the outsourcing and contract labor. As you know, due to rapid development of innovation in the areas of information technology, BPO, ITES, manufacturing, service sector, hospitality and health, etc., there have been tremendous growth in employment and opportunities and contributed significantly to reduce unemployment in the country. The contract labor engagement outsourcing have been prominently dominated by all the state and central government sectors in all their activities and functions. At present, no one can see remarkable growth in employment through outsourcing industrial business circles. This is a major problem. Under the chapter of occupational health and safety and working conditions, under section 57 of the code, it prohibits engagement of contract labor in core areas. For the first time, the core activity has been defined in the code, which means any activity for which the establishment is set up and includes any activity which is essential and necessary for such activity. So this is a major challenge for the industries because the definition is totally vague, it is not specific, whereas in course of non-core functions they have defined very clearly. So this core activity interpretation, I think this will be a matter of big challenge for various industries, and ultimately this may end up in a lot of litigations and then a lot of practicality in facing the issues and problems. Hence, this one major issue. Of course, in the contract labor, is also there is a point a contract has been defined but does not include a worker who is regularly employed by the contractor for any activity establishment or his employment governed by mutually accepted standards of conditions of employment, gets periodical increment, etc., he is not a workman under the code. Now, under the definition of contract labor. Now, this is a highly arguable, debatable interpretations can be either way. So, this we have to see how far it goes. But again, I say that this is a major challenge, and the industries have to look for various various things, alternates to find out all these things. Now here, penalties. The penalties and the codes are very severe for each and every contravention provisions. The minimum penalty starts with 50,000, goes up to 4 lakh. Imprisonment starts with 3 months, goes to 3 years. Hence, this is a very, very challenging task. The strict compliances and all the questions is one of the major challenge. Now, if we finally scrutinize the positive side of the four codes with the disadvantage and concerns and threat of increased litigation, challenging issues. How far one can say it is a labor reform with a purpose and intention of doing the business is a question I think which really we have to discuss. In the book, an attempt has been made by me to um, give a comparative analysis of each and every existing legislation versus the code. In fact, I have made a detailed provision to provision relations, highlighting the changes in the provisions with my comments. I find, I hope this book will be very useful to one and all who is engaged in the labor management, etc. So, thank you very much. All the best.